But we're gonna start with the All-Star starters that came out. Honestly, going into the voting, there wasn't a lot of debate to be had. The only real debate was for the final guard position in both the East and the Western Conference. It felt like going into it, Bradley Beal had that one. He was a lock to be a starter, and Steph Curry as well, locked to be a starter in the West. And for me, it was tough picking between Damian Lillard and Luka Doncic. Luka eventually got in. I think Dame got robbed when the voting first opened. It was a bit more of bit more controversial, but at this current, where we were sitting right now in the NBA season, Damian Lillard, I think, deserves that starting spot 100% over Luka Doncic. And out east, it was Bradley Beal who got the starting spot, and Kyrie Irving as well was there. And it was tough. Kyrie, Harden's had a great year. Jaylen Brown's had a great year. But I think the correct two got put in the Eastern Conference. So yeah, in the West, it was Luka, Steph, Kawhi, Nikola Jokic, and LeBron James was named the captain. He got the most votes. The front court's easy. Give LeBron James a captaincy. I don't really care. He obviously has got the biggest fan base in the NBA, and it's well deserved as well. He's been having a great year. Nikola Jokic, of course, he's having probably one of the best seasons a big man has ever had offensively in history. When you look at modern day NBA, since Wilt Chamberlain retired, I don't know if there's been so far what he's been doing on the efficiency that he's been doing it at. When Nikola Jokic, his season is one of the greatest offensive seasons by a big man of all time. It's up there with some of Wilt Chamberlain's, some of Shaquille O'Neal's. This is historic. And as far as passing the basketball goes as well, that's the thing with Nikola Jokic. He's not just grabbing boards. He's not just hitting big shots. He's not just scoring a lot of points. He is making great plays. He's a true playmaker. And Steph Curry and Luka Doncic got the guard positions. I agree with that. Steph Curry has to be in there. What he's been doing with the Golden State Warriors this year is quite impressive. And Luka Doncic, I already mentioned that I think Damian Lillard should have gotten that spot. And honestly, I could see why Luka's getting it. He's putting up ridiculous numbers so far this year. This guy, 29 points per game, 9.4 assists per game, 8.6 rebounds per game is simply ridiculous. That's amazing. Steph Curry putting up 30 points a game, 6 assists, 5.4 boards a game. Both those guys have been putting up great numbers, but I think Damian Lillard should have got the nod ahead of Luka Doncic because of how good his team is doing in the Western Conference. This team just came off I think was a 6-game win streak, or no, they're currently on a 6-game win streak right now. Fourth in the Western Conference, two and a half games behind the Clippers for the 3 seed. But the most impressive thing here is that CJ McCollum's been out for about a month and a half, and so Nurkic has barely played this year. And this team, Damian Lillard, really he's obviously the only All-Star on this team. This team is somehow fourth in the NBA or fourth in the Western Conference right now. 64% win percentage. They have the fifth best record in the league, and it's just Damian Lillard. I expected this out of Portland if they had CJ McCollum, if they had if they had Nurkic, but they don't. It's literally just Dame, and if they've had some great. Gary Trent's had some great performances. Obviously, they've got more guys than just those 3, but in this current NBA, it seems like you need stars to win. Portland had 3. I think they had 3. I think top 50 players. I think CJ McCollum's extremely underrated. I had CJ McCollum as probably a top 3 shooting guard in the NBA. That's including Klay Thompson when he's healthy. That's including Bradley Beal and of course James Harden. I think he's better than one of those guys. And he's out. But the Blazers are still. I think that's why I would put Damian Lillard ahead. Ahead of Luka Doncic. Of course, Luka's team currently 10th in the West with a losing record. But yeah, honestly, either way, both have been having great seasons. Out in the East, Bradley Beal and Kyrie Irving making the All-Star starters for guards. Kyrie Irving, I think, is well deserved. I don't think we should. I was asked earlier if this was Kyrie Irving's best season, if this is the peak of Kyrie Irving. And it's got to be. I think right now we're watching a better Kyrie Irving than we saw in Cleveland. Right now we're watching obviously a more experienced player than we saw in Cleveland, and a guy who's been willing to work with his teammates. a lot more than I guess you could say in Cleveland. Of course, the reason he left Cleveland was to become the top dog, and he went to Boston to become that. Wasn't that didn't work out? He went to Brooklyn, and we all clowned him for being like, "Yo, now you're the third dog." But you look at this season, and he's probably. I mean, Kevin Durant hasn't played a lot. And when James Harden was there, Harden's more than happy of sitting back and saying, "Hey, Kyrie, you're putting up 28 points a game pretty much right now. You're having a great season. You go take us to victory." And Kyrie, I think you can make a case he's been the top dog in Brooklyn this year. Even though Kevin Durant obviously is on that team, KD hasn't been playing a lot. Harden's been chilling. He's like, "Yo, Kyrie, you're balling out. I'm gonna let you do it." So I got nothing but respect for Kyrie Irving so far this year. I mean, I've got nothing bad to say against him. Bradley Beal. I agree with him being a starter. I think he's overrated because points per game obviously isn't everything. He's not a very good defensive player, and of course his team is shit. But that has a lot to do with COVID and all that stuff. Russell Westbrook hasn't panned out very well. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to Bradley Beal. I would like to mention though James Harden, or I would like to mention James Harden. This guy's I think we've forgotten how good James Harden is. I think when he won his MVP in 2018, and in 2019 he was putting up 36 points per game. Last year he still led the league in scoring. It was like 35 points a game, some shit like that, like 34. And this year, I mean, he's down about 20, 22, 23. I'm going to bring that up right now. But James Harden, we're forgetting how good this man is. And I think we all got a wake-up call the other night when there was no when there was no Kyrie Irving. There was no Kevin Durant on the Brooklyn Nets the other night. He's putting up 24 points a game right now, which is still quite a bit considering. I mean, it's a lot anyway, but the fact that he's got two of the other greatest players in the world right now. But I think we all got a wake-up call against the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns were on a 6 or 7 game win streak the other night, and the on come the Brooklyn Nets, who don't have Kyrie, who don't have Kevin Durant, and we kind of clown them for saying, "Yo, you guys got 3 players, and after that you got Joe Harris and just shit." And James Harden, his team was down by about, it was 15 at one point in the fourth quarter, but James Harden gave us all a big wake-up call against the Phoenix Suns, especially in the fourth quarter. He reminded us of the player that he really is. He reminded us that, hey, he's not scoring a lot of points, but that's his choice. He's choosing to score less. He's choosing to play a lesser role. His stats aren't as good as they were when he was winning MVPs, but he's just as good as he was back when he was winning the MVP award. Back when he was in Houston putting up 60, 50, 40 points every other night. He's the same player. He's just as good as he's ever been. Probably even better. But he's leading the NBA in assists per game right now. I mean, he's a walking triple-double while he's been in Brooklyn. He's literally been a walking triple-double. He's putting up 7 rebounds a game right now, or approximately 7. I have nothing but respect for James Harden. I have always had respect for James Harden. But I think we have to remember that this is the same James Harden who could give us 30, 40, 50 points every fucking night. There was not a night off when Harden wasn't giving us 35, 40, 50 points. It's the same guy. And when we saw him against the Phoenix Suns without KD, without Kyrie, and he gave us 38 points, hit a big dagger against the Suns, who had won 6 or 7 straight games, who were a 4th seed in the Western Conference, and Harden carried his team through there, and he showed us all that, hey, I might be putting up 24 points a game right now, but that's my choice. If I wanted to, I could give you 35 a game. If I wanted to, I could be leading the MVP award race right now. If I wanted to. But this guy, he's choosing to take a back seat. He's the third wheel on the Brooklyn Nets right now. And that's his choice. He's saying, Kevin Durant, you've won championships before, I'm going to let you have it. Kyrie, you've won championships before, I'm going to let you have it. And I don't think a lot of people thought Harden was going to be able to do that. And he's proven a lot of people wrong, and I hope he continues doing that. I hope he continues being the third wheel. Because like he was in OKC, I think he's going to be even more clutch this year. He's going to play a big role for the Brooklyn Nets down the stretch. And a lot of people forget that back in OKC, Harden was looked at not as a playoff choker. He was looked at as a clutch guy. He was a clutch shooter back in OKC, back when he was a third wheel with KD and Russell Westbrook. And this year we're seeing it again, James Harden. Nothing but respect. In the front court in the Eastern Conference, extremely easy. Kevin Durant was a captain, well-deserved. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid leading the MVP race in my books and in pretty much everyone else's books who aren't Lakers fans. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is having a really underrated season. you look at Giannis's numbers, and especially as of late, he's been coming on as of late, but he's giving you MVP type numbers. He really is. 28 a night, 11.7 boards per game, 6 assists per game. An amazing defensive player all around. He's giving us these MVP type numbers, but the thing is that there have been so many other great players so far this year, and we're going to be getting into that a little bit later. I would like to shout out quickly Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell he's turning into a clutch maestro, and if there is time later in this podcast, I would like to discuss that comparison between the Atlanta Hawks of 2015, 2016 and the current Utah Jazz. They're not the same. That Hawks team, they don't compare at all to this Utah Jazz team. If there's time, I might talk about that, or I might talk about that in a future episode, because I need to get my 2 cents in on that, because those comparisons, ridiculous, simply ridiculous. Yeah, so that's the All-Star voting.